Yes, yes. Welcome to the ancient world of tabletop games. I am Agamemnon from the historical documentary Time Bandits. This is a report from a fugitive. And now it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vassell. Hey folks, I'm Tom Vassell, and today I'm being portrayed by Sir Sean. Frankly, I'm stunned. How do we tell stories? We ask questions. The burning question of the hour is this: what the hell is a dice tower anyway? Is it a tower made of dice? No. A dice tower is a piece of gaming equipment for which I had no use until I decided to start making these videos. In the olden times, back in the days when the dinosaurs ruled the earth, I suppose we could have used dice towers. The Romans certainly had them. But no, dice towers weren't for us. We rolled dice, wild and untamed, unfettered, and oh shit, the dice rolled off the table and disappeared into the hinterlands. Players were made of sterner stuff in the Old West. You'd roll into town, six-siders blazing, and if your dice bounced off the table and clacked across the floorboards, hell, you just picked yourself up, dusted off the spaghetti fragments, and went back to the game. A dice tower's a convenient way of herding and corralling your wayward Würfel. Gather your dice at the top of the tower, and let them run down the tower steps to the courtyard below. Think back, Pilgrim. There, you just told a story. For video production purposes, a tower stops the dice falling off this table. With the tower sitting static, I can fix a camera on the rolled results without having to guess where the dice end up each time. Should I place an expensive piece of equipment ultra-low on the table, a second camera, say, then the corralled dice stand little chance of clacking into a camera lens. There is the added psychoillogical bonus of hearing the dice clatter, whether the camera is on them or not during the action, should the viewpoint be elsewhere as those dice roll down. But you didn't come here for video production tips. You wanted to know what the hell a dice tower is for. Is it really just for rolling dice and keeping them confined to a small courtyard on a vast tableland? Mulling it over, it's clear to me now that back in the days of the Wild West we could have made effective use of dice towers to stop, well, there's always that one player, isn't there? One player to roll them all and in the darkness fling them. That player who brings black dice to your gaming room. The gaming room with the dark carpet and long shadows. This is the Black Forest of gaming, and those dice are soon lost deep in the woods with miles to go before they roll again. This basic dice-rolling fool doesn't stop there. The chaotic power grows. Entire gaming sessions are at risk from this extinction-level dice foolery. It's that one player who rolls the dice by flipping them into the air close to the table's edge. Out of 6 dice flipped, 2 land on the table. 1 drops into a cup full of cola, sending a tsunami of fizzy brown liquid across fragile cardboard game components. 1 die ricochets and takes out 2 dice belonging to the neighbouring player, and a plastic avalanche cascades into all those finely balanced figurines. Your dudes on a map game is in jeopardy. 18 dudes fall dead before the Reaper's scythe. Your reckless fool comes into town shooting dice, and that one corner of the board suddenly resembles the Alamo. It's hard to tell if a battle took place there, or with the fizzing cola stains lingering on the board, maybe Ozzy Osbourne dropped by to piss on a national monument. But we mustn't forget the last 2 dice flipped into the air. They are on the heaviest disruptive bombing run you'll ever see in a board game, whether the board game is World War II themed or not. The most devastating type of die to go over the table's edge is the 20-sider. Granted the military designation D20 Tumbler, the 20-sided die was developed by Barnes Wallis in 1942, and that is a board game fact. This massive weapon of random number generation was deployed to powerful effect in a role-playing game using the Blackmoor setting hosted by Dave Arneson in 1986. A disgruntled player bounced the payload over the Dungeon Master's screen, contributing to Arneson's second departure from TSR, the company that gave the world dungeons linked eternally to dragons. But this is mere preamble, and so I must speak of the tumbling dice that fall fatally to the floor. There they vanish into the murk. The clumsiest player apologizes profusely, not for what just happened, no, but rather for what is about to go down flaming. The player disappears under the table, bumping a head and bashing an elbow off someone else's knee. No sign of the dice. Employing the sweep tactic, this meddling fool discovers broken biscuit crumbs and a key that, when checked later, fits no known lock. Oxygen bottles are offered to those above the table as well as those below. Other players are sucked into the vortices, trying valiantly to hoist your game back on track. The phrase, "to no avail," is dusted off and half-heartedly employed. A lone hand emerges from the underdark. The scribe tells us of that event like so. In those old days, one summer noon, an arm rose up from out the bosom of the lake, clothed in white samite, mystic, wonderful, holding the die, and how I reached across to take it and roll it like a king. Alas, it was never fated. The hand rises from nowhere and makes to drop the die back into the land of the living. This hand knocks 4 more dice from 2 different players. These ancient plastic runic tokens fall to the shadow. Apologies from under the table. Half an hour of this, and the poor fool rises, gasping blue and ready for the winding sheet. The knave takes his seat. It is not even the same seat he started in. He sits the dice on the table, and we discover 1 more die than we all started out with. It looks vaguely familiar to 5 players, but they can't say for sure that it belongs to the player who never turned up. This is why dice towers were invented. Let's look at a few dice towers. This is your basic castle by a Polish company named E-Raptor. I'll say this, of all the dice towers featured here, the one thing you don't get from this video is the smell of burning wood when first encountering the bits and pieces. The tower slots together. You could use PVA wood glue to solidify the construction, but I found assembly easy enough. I had red felt lying around and carpeted the tower stairs. The tower is available painted, but I liked the look of the laser cuts in the unpainted wood and opted for that model. This steampunk dice tower requires no construction. It's made by English company, basically wooden. Retrieve your dice from the handy drawer, undog the submarine hatch, and away you roll. I've left this steampunk tower until last as it requires the greatest level of care in its construction. Canadian company Black Thumb Creations gives you a self-assembly steampunk tower that is a joy to use, though it is far from joyous to build. If you have hands that are all thumbs and then some, you might as well dispense with a tower this complex and go back to rolling dice under your gaming table. I approached assembly with the trepidation of a surgeon attempting to carve Sunday dinner. You think the task lies within your capability, given your skill in other areas, but you'll never be sure until you tackle the job. By the time I'd finished, I was sweating like a priest at a porn star's barbecue. The tower gave me one area of supreme difficulty. The right-hand lever had one hole misaligned, rendering it useless. What to do? The tower is designed to take one handle by itself instead of 2. I dismantled the work and measured like a madman, plotting the extension of the misaligned hole so that it would accept the peg coming in from elsewhere. Then I took Mr. Stanley's knife and I scraped away at my markings, stopping occasionally to pour buckets of sweat into the bathtub. I erred on the side of extreme caution and tried fitting the pieces together many times. Not quite there, nearly, almost. Then I had the pieces in place. The margin for error was wafer thin. I got away with it, but only just. With the contraption assembled, I turned to the matter of PVA wood glue. Of the 3 dice towers, one is fully built. The E-Raptor tower doesn't need glue, and the Black Thumb tower doesn't really need glue either. However, I carefully glued the 3 base sections together, creating the steps leading up to the machine. With the base now glued into one solid unit, I simply slotted the main construction into position. The tower rests on the base quite freely, but the strengthening of the base made the overall tightness of the assembly so much better. The tower was a little rickety before the base took that glue. I also glued the courtyard pieces together. Other than these areas, I left well alone. Should you wish to tackle the challenge, get an adult to help you. I couldn't find one, and that's why I winged it. Assembled, working, the tower is a delight. Here at the rear there is space for rolling a 30-sided die. I've often wondered why you'd need to roll a D30, perhaps to randomly determine the day of the month in a role-playing adventure. That works well if your fantasy calendar has 30 days in every month, I suppose. The rear gate is also there to help clear jams. That's another reason I didn't glue the main parts of the tower together, just in case I had to go in and do a spot of bomb disposal if the anti-jamming feature failed. And there you have it, a piece of gaming equipment that I'd consider too expensive to bother with. It's a luxury item, a dice tower, though you'll find plenty of models out there to suit your meagre budget, it's true. Yet, for video purposes, talking about games and their third-party accessories, a dice tower is an essential purchase. Keep a greater degree of control over your dice. Armies kill armies. Disease is a greater killer of armies, it's true. Yet an errant waterfall of dice may be the mightiest leveler of all on the tabletop battlefield. There are other reasons for buying dice towers. They add to the atmosphere of the game. If you are introducing beginners to gaming, then give those rookies something to focus on. Here's a dice tower. It stops your dice scattering to the four winds, and you won't lose dice under the table or knock over stacks of playing pieces. Introductory talk done? Start rolling. The unspoken use for the dice tower is to reduce cheating, but that is a topic for another time.